So, Mr. Eskander, you decided to return from Europe to Baghdad in 2003 after the US invasion. The country was in chaos. It was very dangerous. Why did you make that decision?
We were a group of Iraqi intellectuals who lived in London for years. Among us were journalists, academics, painters, who wanted to make a difference, to go back to Baghdad, to Iraq, and to help with the process of rebuilding the country.
But you went back to the National Library and Archive, if that was the name of the institution. Tell us a bit about this institution, exactly what was housed in there as documents and how important it was, and what kind of destruction was it experiencing when you returned?
During the invasion, especially during the occupation of Baghdad, the main building of the National Library and Archives was set on fire twice. We lost about 60% of archival collection, 30 to 35% of book collections. As I said, the most damaged cultural institution. So it needed a lot of work to rebuild the infrastructure, to build the collection, to retrain or re-qualify the staff. So it was, to start from below zero. In a situation where we didn't have a budget, we didn't have electricity, nothing was there.
How important were these archives and these documents, these books that you were mentioning?
It's tell the story of the establishment of the Iraqi states and the development of the society, and they covered all aspects of life from late 19th century up to 1980. So it was the historical memory, the modern historical memory of the Iraqi nation. The archives represent something like your identity, your memory. Without archives, we don't have something in common among the Iraqis. The Iraqis are divided along ethnic and religious lines.
Yeah, tell us a bit more about that period of time when you wrote the diary and you published to the world to let people see the violence that you were experiencing. You were talking about your staff being kidnapped and being executed in cold blood. You were talking about bullets, stray bullets coming through the window and stuff like that. How was it to work in that environment? What kept you going?
The hardship, the challenges were not just security challenges. We faced a lot of challenges at different levels. Lack of support from government, insecurity, shortage of money, shortage of electricity. So we needed to deal with all of these challenges. The location of the National Library wasn't ideal. In the front of the National Library was a military base for the American Army and for the Iraqi Army. Behind our building, it was the stronghold of the terrorists, of Al-Qaeda and the Ba'athis. We were in the middle. The distance between my office and the Americans and my office and the terrorists is only 100, 200 meters away. So we caught in the middle. When the fighting was going on, a lot of bombs and shells hit the building, and we exposed to all of these dangers.
Did you have moments where you said, I cannot do this anymore? This is just too hard.
No, I draw my courage from my staff. I felt I will betray them if I leave. It was easy for me to leave, to go back to London and live a normal life and a good job and so on. I thought it was a betrayal of my staff, betrayal of Baghdad, city. It's my city. I'm not going to give up and give it simply to the terrorists. That's the reason I stayed with my staff. It's my country, it's my city, and these are my people. Why should I leave them and not to fight back?
So how did you persevere? With what did you manage to wait out the most difficult time, of course, not waiting, but do whatever you could when you could do them and slowly make a difference?
I started with their morale. First, I democratized the way the National Library was running. There was elections for the head of departments. I encourage women to form their own union to fight for equality in workplace. There was a radio. There was even a gym for them. I provided everything I could for them to, to normalize their life. At the same time, I tried to train them inside Iraq or send them abroad to receive the training. I did all of that in a way that to give a meaning to their task, to their daily work. No, they are not just civil servants. They are warriors, cultural warriors. In such a time when your country is facing crisis, your work is important as the work done by the soldiers and the officers.
Now, fortunately, the worst time is over. Is your work slightly easier? I mean, are you able to retrieve the lost documents and archives? What is still the biggest challenge for you?
We achieved a lot. We got it from America. We forced the Americans to send back 100 million documents in 2013. It was shipped out during the invasion and the occupation of the country. I think by March 2013, all of these documents returned to Iraq. That was a big victory for us.
In your work at the National Archive, National Library and Archive, what is the biggest challenge for now? Is it political will? Is it lack of funding? Is it lack of attention? Is it lack of, I don't know, what may be the biggest challenge you're faced with at this moment?
All of the things you mentioned.
Really?
No budget, no support, no understanding. Very few people in the country, especially policymakers, understand the significance of this archive, these documents to the future of our country. Without these records, we cannot review our past to draw lessons from bitter experiences. So we need to go back to study our history in an objective way and to enlighten our population, the new generation, about the bitter past and in order to prevent the reoccurrence of such tragedies in our country.
Finally, for people who may be dedicated to preserving national memories, what is your message, having worked through the past 20 years in painstaking ways?
I think the work of librarian and archivist extremely important, as important as a soldier in the battlefield. Without us, there will be no normality. Without us, there is no something in common that will bring different communities together, because we are preserving the memory of everybody. We are preserving the identity of the country, especially in a country like Iraq, which is unfortunately divided along ethnic and religious lines. So the work of the archivist is I think, is as important as any politician or policymaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Saad Eskander, for your accounts. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me and giving me this good opportunity to talk about the Iraqi National Library. Thank you.